200 blog posts vanished from production, no error, no alert, just 400 fours. A single missing space in YAML Frontmatter silently broke the entire build. The experimental mdxRs flag, Rust-based MDX compiler, is available in Next.js 14+, but is not yet stable. In Next.js 16, it may be enabled by default or replaced. Some remark/rehype plugins, especially those that modify the ASD in non-standard ways, may produce different output or fail with mdxRs. Always test with your exact plugin stack in a staging build before enabling in production. The article shows draft mode via an API route, but you can also use Next.js middleware to enable draft mode based on a query parameter or cookie. This can simplify the preview flow by avoiding a separate API call. The middleware checks for a secret token and calls draft mode, enable, before the page renders. The draft mode cookie set by draft mode, enable, is session only by default expires when the browser closes. For long editing sessions, consider setting a custom max age via the max age option in the cookie. However, be aware that persistent draft cookies can lead to accidental previews in production if not cleared. Always combine with a secret token check. Let's break down MDX, content management, and draft mode in Next.js, how it works, and the exact mistake behind that failure. MDX lets you write content in Markdown while embedding React components like charts or callouts. Next.js compiles MDX files into React components at build time, which is fast, but means any error in a single file can break the entire build. Frontmatter is YAML metadata that drives listings and SEO. Draft mode allows editors to preview unpublished posts, but it only works with on-demand ISR, not static export. Understanding these pieces is key to building a robust content pipeline. Setting up MDX in Next.js with the app router requires the @next/MDX package and the experimental mdxRs flag for optimal performance. The Rust-based compiler is 5-10x faster than the JS version. Here's the basic configuration. We set page extensions to include MDX files, enable mdxRs, and wrap the config with create MDX. The remark and rehype plugin arrays are where you'll add transformations. The most important rule: validate Frontmatter before compilation. A ZOD schema defines required fields and types. A prebuild script reads every MDX file, parses Frontmatter, and validates it, crashing CI if any file is invalid. This script reads all MDX files, parses Frontmatter with gray matter, and validates against a ZOD schema. If any file fails, it prints all errors and exits with code 1, crashing CI. This catches issues before they reach production. Draft mode allows editors to preview unpublished content. The CMS calls an API route with a secret token, which calls draft mode, enable, and redirects to the page. The page then checks draft mode, is enabled to include unpublished data. This API route verifies the secret, enables draft mode, and redirects to the post. The draft mode cookie is HTTP only and session specific. Remark plugins operate on the Markdown ASD before compilation. Rehype plugins operate on the HTML ASD after. Plugin order is critical. For example, rehypeSlug must run before rehypeAutolinkHeadings. Most sites only need 2-3 plugins. Here's a typical plugin setup. Remark Frontmatter and Remark GFM run first, then Remark Prism for syntax highlighting. On the rehype side, rehypeSlug adds heading IDs, then rehypeAutolinkHeadings wraps them in anchor links. For production sites, build a content index at prebuild time. This single JSON file contains all validated Frontmatter, sorted and indexed. Pages read from this index instead of parsing MDX files during rendering, which is much faster. This script builds a content index with validated posts, sorted by date, and provides O1 lookup by slug and tag. The index is generated once at prebuild and imported by pages. MDX allows embedding React components directly in Markdown. You register them via the components prop on MDX remote. Most components should be server components. Only use client for genuine browser interactivity. Here's a custom callout component and a link override. These are server components that render at build time, shipping 0 JavaScript to the browser. For large sites, not all content needs MDX. Use plain Markdown for posts without JSX. This saves 80% build time. Precompile MDX to serialized HTML in a prebuild step to remove compilation from the critical path. This prebuild script compiles MDX to serialized HTML and stores it as JSON. The Next.js build then imports these precompiled files instead of running MDX compilation, significantly reducing build time. This is the same issue we highlighted at the start. Here's exactly why that happened. One MDX file had title, advanced guide instead of title, advanced guide, a missing space after the colon. The YAML parser failed, but at next/MDX only logged a warning. Then the content layers filter function threw an error when it encountered the invalid front matter, returning an empty array. All 200 posts disappeared. A missing space after the colon in title, advanced guide, instead of title, advanced guide, caused YAML parsing to fail silently, aborting the build and removing all 200 posts from production. The fix involved 3 changes. First, a ZOD validation script runs before the build and crashes CI on any invalid front matter. Second, the content filter now includes all files and lets the template handle visibility. Third, the invalid front matter was corrected to title, advanced guide. Now, front matter errors are caught before they can affect production. This single line caused the incident. The colon must be followed by a space before the value. Without it, the YAML parser fails, and if not caught by validation, it can cascade into a complete build failure. Draft mode only works with on-demand ISR. If your next config TS has output, export, there is no server runtime to handle the draft cookie. Choose static export for speed or ISR for previews, you cannot have both. If rehypeAutolinkHeadings runs before rehypeSlug, headings don't have IDs yet, so anchor links won't be added. Always check plugin documentation for ordering requirements. To debug MDX issues, first check build logs for warnings about skipped files. Run the Frontmatter Validation script separately to catch all errors. For draft mode issues, verify you're not using static export. For plugin problems, check the registration order and return types. Let's run through some common interview questions. How would you design a content pipeline for 500 MDX posts with draft preview? Use prebuild validation, content index, ISR, and draft API route. Explain remark versus rehype plugins. Remark transforms Markdown ASD. Rehype transforms HTML ASD. Choose based on when transformation should occur. How would you handle syntax highlighting in MDX? Use remark prism or rehype prism plus. Minimize JS by using static highlighting at build time. And a few frequently asked questions. Can I use draft mode with static export? No, draft mode requires ISR. How do I validate front matter? Use a prebuild script with gray matter and ZOD. How many MDX plugins should I use? 2-3 plugins for most sites. Each adds build time. Let's recap the key takeaways. Validate front matter with ZOD as prebuild step. Draft mode requires ISR, not static export. Build a content index for performance. Use plain Markdown for most content. Ready to go deeper? Up next. Config, TS deep dive, all configuration options explained, then pages router to app router migration. Step-by-step guide, then Next.js project structure, folder organization best practices, and Next.js with Drizzle ORM, database integration guide. Find them all at TheCodeForge.io. Thanks for watching. The full article and code examples are covered in detail at TheCodeForge.io.